Hi. Wow. Well, thank you very much for coming tonight. I have to apologize up front because I have to rely on notes. I have a terrible memory and I'm lazy. So anyways, I'm so lazy that if the food has to be rotated halfway through in the microwave, I'll just eat a plate of crackers instead. And you know, one of my pet peeves is how we use gender in our words all the time. You're always having to remember, okay, is it council person, not councilman, you know, congressperson, chairperson. And I think we should just alleviate all of that stuff and just call everybody things. You know, so we'll have Congress things, thing-a-hole covers, thing on the moon. And then when you get married, I now pronounce you thing and thing. Really simple. My husband got me a GPS for my birthday. And I gotta tell you, it gets so nasty when I don't follow its directions. So, to give you an example on the way here tonight, it says, Achtung! You will turn right at the next corner. We will invade Poland. Now before, it used to be this really, you know, nice guy from India, very, very polite, but the problem was that it took so long to get directions, I was always late. And you know, our English language is kind of funny. You know, for example, what exactly is a civil war? I mean, didn't something like 600,000 people die in our Civil War? I mean, what is that? Excuse me, would you mind terribly if I blew off your head? And then another thing, you know, what exactly are anti-abortion protesters? Doesn't that mean they're really pro-abortion? Shouldn't they be called anti-abortion supporters? And what is this with disgruntled employees? Have you ever met a gruntled employee? Oh, I'm feeling very gruntled today. I just got a raise. And you know, I don't understand people who have a fear of flying. I certainly don't have a fear of flying. I have a fear of crashing. And roommates can be hard. When I was in college, I lived with this roommate, and well, you know, she'd have, you know, pot parties and sex orgies all the time, and I'd wake up in the morning with empty beer bottles and puke all over the living room. And I finally had to move out, because she never invited me. Well, it was bound to happen. The federal government had to drastically reduce funding for the Witness Protection Program. My poor Uncle Waldo, instead of getting moved to a new city and given a new identity, they just showed up at the door with a wig and a dress and told him to move into the basement. And I really have a self-esteem problem. I sent an email to myself and went directly in my spam folder. And when I was a kid, well, I still am, I'm very embarrassed about my body. But when I was a kid, every time I changed my clothes, I put a towel over my aquarium because I didn't want the fish to see me. And one time I forgot, and you should have seen the panicked look on their little faces as they tried to cover their eyes with their fins. But the poor catfish, he wasn't fast enough. I found him on the floor. He committed suicide. I'm thinking maybe it was murder. You know, one thing I want to know is how do you get a disease named after yourself? I mean, like Lou Gehrig's disease. And I don't even know who measles was. But anyways, I'd like to have a disease named after myself called CindyBloom syndrome. And then I'd like to have a non-CindyBloom syndrome, sort of like Hodgkin's and non-Hodgkin's. And my disease is that your ass just gets bigger and bigger. And you have a skinny butt over there, so you have non-CindyBloom syndrome. You know, spelling is really important. I worked for a lawyer, and I was reading this woman's will, and she put in her will that after she died, she wanted to be cremated, like, you know, whipped cream. And I thought, she wants to be turned into a smoothie? And I want to be cremated too, after I die, of course. But I'm a little concerned because I heard that fat is very flammable. And I mean, what happens if I start like a huge brush fire or something? And, you know, I'm getting older, and it's not a lot of fun. And, you know you're old when they open a time capsule and you're in it. And you also know you're old when, you know, the fashions you wore as a teenager are now considered Halloween costumes. There's really nothing good about getting old, except for wisdom. The problem is you can't remember any of it. You know, Mother Nature's thought of everything. You know, when you get older, you can't see up close anymore. And that's because Mother Nature doesn't want you to get pissed off when you look in the mirror. And I used to get carded when I go out to drink, but now I get carded to find out if I qualify for senior citizen discounts. And I'm actually really flattered when they ask now, because, you know, I'm digging through my purse trying to find out my ID, and, you know, many times they say, nah, I don't need it, I believe you. You know, and this is a true story. Have things gotten so bad in this recession that Goodwill has an outlet store? I saw an outlet store over in Van Nuys. I mean, that's really bad. For their real bargain stuff. And one thing I really detest is unrealistic movie dialogue. Okay, so there's this huge, gigantic, burning meteor heading straight to Earth. It's going to obliterate the whole Earth. And there's some guy with a tattoo saying, "Oh, get down now, or you better get out of here." I mean, shouldn't they really be saying, "Fuck! We're all going to fucking die!" So, another thing I've been wondering about is, how did we find out if a food was poisonous or not? Well, now I know, because I saw an ad on Craigslist for a poisoned food tester. So I was real excited, so immediately I called, and the job had been filled. And I called the next day, and it was open. Hey, I have an idea for all those millions of people who don't have medical or health insurance. Get yourself thrown in jail. My great aunt needed a quadruple heart bypass surgery, and she didn't have the money, so she robbed a bank. Now, she got enough money from the heist to pay for her operation, but she got busted because she couldn't carry the bag of money and use her walker at the same time. But don't get me wrong, she loves jail. She got her heart operation, she got a hip replacement, and the guards bring her meals 3 times a day. She gets free cable TV, and now she's on a waiting list for her facelift. Did you know that men can suffer from color blindness? They can't see the color green. So I want to know, who is the genius that decided on the colors for traffic signals? Now, you also know that traffic signals, you know, they have those icons now for pedestrians to tell them, you know, it's okay to walk or not walk. They have this hand that tells you not to walk. Well, maybe you think the hand is waving at you. Yeah, come on across the street. So I think a better icon for that would be to just have a body with 2 tire tracks on top. And, you know, for those of you who have seen, you know, transsexual transvestites, you know, they're usually done up very sexily with the big hair and the long fingernails and the impeccable makeup. Well, when I was in college, there was a frumpy transsexual. You know, he wore big baggy dresses, tennis shoes without socks, his hair was always a mess. And he told me that a couple of years prior that he had had an out-of-body experience. And I wondered, well, which one? Anyways, thank you very much.